Imagine finding an old, a hand-drawn sketch in a basement somewhere.
Right.
You wipe off the dust, you look closely, and you realize it's not just a doodle.
Mhm.
It's actually this incredibly detailed mechanical schematic. And it outlines the exact underlying architecture of the smartphone sitting in your pocket right now.
Oh, yeah.
A device that, wouldn't actually be built until decades after the ink on that sketch had dried.
It creates this really strange kind of temporal whiplash, doesn't it?
Holy.
You're essentially looking at the intellectual architecture of the future, but it's completely buried in the past.
Exactly. And that whiplash is exactly the territory we are exploring today in this deep dive.
Yes.
We're looking at a really fascinating personal essay by Lev Nemotin. It's titled The Green Word, Kopylenko, Combinability, and the Prehistory of Language AI.
Right. And the central premise here is just so compelling.
It really is. The goal for us today is to explore how the core intuition powering the AI tools you probably use every single day, whether you're generating code, summarizing long documents, drafting emails, that intuition was actually mapped out by a Soviet linguist.
Long before the physical computers even existed to process any of it.
Right. Decades before.
Which really challenges the standard narrative we usually hear about this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the popular assumption is that artificial intelligence is this purely modern Silicon Valley invention.
Right. We tend to view it as this sudden triumph of raw computational power and, massive server farms.
Exactly. But Nemotin's essay suggests that the intellectual roots of these large language models are actually hidden in a deeply humanistic mathematical tradition of 20th century linguistics.
Right. These systems, they weren't just born in a sterile vacuum.
No.
They grew out of human minds that were trying to map the fundamental structure of human thought.
Right. And to understand this massive technological shift, Nemotin anchors it in a very grounded human narrative.
He doesn't start in a computer lab.
No, the essay actually begins on a sidewalk in New York City.
Yeah, just a casual walk.
Right. The author is taking a walk toward Penn Station right after visiting a Raphael exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Which is an important detail, right?
Yeah. He makes a point to mention that his mind was primed by the museum.
Mm-hmm.
He had just spent hours looking at Renaissance colors, forms, compositions, and it left him in this state where he was just more receptive to noticing hidden structures.
Like hidden connections in the world around him.
Exactly. And that visual priming sets the stage for a conversation he's having with his walking companion.
He's walking with an old friend.
Right. The daughter of MOISEI MIKHAILOVICH Kopylenko.
And just for context for everyone listening, Kopylenko was this monumental figure in 20th century linguistics.
A huge deal.
Yeah, his scholarship was incredibly vast. We're talking comparative linguistics, bilingualism, phraseology, the history of linguistic thought.
He wasn't just a researcher in a corner.
Not at all. He was a builder of entire schools of thought, a teacher with a really profound reach.
Right. So as they're walking, Nemotin asks her a question that, honestly, it seems a bit absurd.
Yeah, almost an unfair question.
He asks if she can summarize her father's central professional accomplishment in just a few words.
He wants a living snapshot for someone who has no background in linguistics.
Right. But, okay, let's unpack this, because honestly, asking someone to compress a scholar's entire life into a single sentence, that feels incredibly reductive.
It does.
It almost borders on a kind of violence to a legacy of that magnitude, doesn't it?
It really does. And Nemotin actually acknowledges that tension directly in the text.
He does, yeah.
To demand a one-sentence summary of a lifetime of rigorous, complex scholarship is inherently unfair.
Absolutely.
But the really compelling part of this exchange is how the daughter responds to it.
Right. She doesn't do what you'd expect.
No, she doesn't rattle off a dry academic bibliography or, list the institutions he ran. She offers a living image of his work. And the essay really leans into this idea.
Which idea?
That formal scientific arguments often reach us first through human trust, memory, tenderness.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A family member carries a scholar's legacy in a fundamentally different way than a university archive does.
That is such a beautiful way to put it, and her response completely sidesteps all the academic jargon.
Completely.
She tells Nemotin that her father developed a mathematically grounded way of looking at how any given word in a language connects to other words.
Right.
And to illustrate this, she shares this deceptively simple game that Kopylenko used to play.
The game of the word green.
Yeah, the green game.
It basically operates like a word association exercise.
Right.
You isolate the word green, and you simply ask what is allowed to follow it.
So you immediately generate things like green frog,
Right.
green apple, green grass.
Green envy,
Yeah.
green energy, green zone.
Yeah, and Neymotin takes it a step further in the essay. He suggests that maybe you could even say green fear.
Ooh, green fear.
Right. If a poet managed to create the exact right context to make that phrase actually work.
And you have to notice the gradient of probability in all those examples.
What do you mean?
Well, some combinations are entirely ordinary and expected, right? Like green leaf.
Yeah, super common.
Others are metaphorical but still very common, like green envy.
Right.
But then you have combinations that are incredibly rare. They practically border on impossible, yet they aren't strictly forbidden by the rules of the language.
Like green fear.
Exactly. And Kopylenko took this playful, intuitive concept and transformed it into a rigorous scientific pursuit.
Way before we had computers to do it for us.
Yes. Long before databases, he was manually searching through thousands of texts to measure the specific ways words connect.
That sounds exhausting.
It was. He was looking for probabilities, identifying stable habits of language, and documenting the rare permissions that words grant to one another.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. If you think about it, a word is essentially acting like a person at a massive, bustling party.
Okay, I like that. A party.
Yeah. You aren't just a lonely, isolated dictionary definition standing in the corner by yourself.
Right.
You have a highly specific social circle.
Yeah.
So if you see the word green at this party, you fully expect them to be talking to their best friend, frog.
Right, that's a highly probable connection.
Exactly. But if you see green talking to someone from a completely different social sphere, a total stranger.
That is a shocking connection.
Right. That is green fear. Words have neighbors, they have natural attractions, and they have strong resistances to other words.
That party analogy perfectly captures Kopylenko's mathematical approach to what he called lexical combinability.
Lexical combinability, yeah.
He viewed language as a living, dynamic system of both possible and actual connections.
Not just a list of rules.
Exactly. It wasn't an inert list of definitions.
Yeah.
It was this vibrant network that could be mathematically described, grouped, and made intellectually visible.
He was basically doing the manual labor of mapping out the social circles of the entire language.
Yes. Which leads right to the massive shock of recognition Neymotin experiences on that walk to Penn Station.
Right, because mapping out the social circles and mathematical probabilities of how words combine, that isn't just an obscure linguistic theory from the Soviet Union anymore.
No, it's not.
That is the exact mechanical foundation of the large language models operating on your smartphone right now.
The core intuition Kopylenko chased, that every word carries a, quote, horizon of what can come next. That is the engine of modern AI.
It's wild to think about.
Neymotin argues that the massive technical infrastructure of AI today is ultimately in service of mechanizing that exact intuition.
And we hear so much AI jargon constantly, right? Tokens, embeddings, layers, attention mechanisms, enormous training corpora.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, so let's actually break down how that jargon maps onto Kopylenko's theories, because I think it really helps clarify what the machines are actually doing.
That's a great idea.
So in AI terminology, a token is essentially a fragment of a word, or a whole word, depending on the system.
Right, so green is a token.
Exactly.
And embeddings are basically the mathematical version of your party analogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an embedding is a massive multidimensional map of that party.
Okay.
Instead of just listing words, modern AI translates every single word into a long string of numbers that represents its exact location in a multidimensional space.
So on that map, green and apple are physically clustered close together because their social circles overlap constantly.
Exactly. While green and fear are located very far apart.
Right. And then you add attention mechanisms to the mix.
Which do what in this analogy?
They act like an algorithm observing the party. The attention mechanism scans a sentence and figures out which words are paying attention to which other words across the room.
Even if they are separated by a crowd of other guests.
Exactly. It calculates how much influence green should have on the word appearing all the way at the end of the paragraph.
Kopylenko was theorizing the architecture of this multidimensional map through pure manual observation.
With index cards and text parsing.
Right. And modern AI is taking massive training corpora, basically the entire written internet, and using billions of mathematical parameters to build that same map at a planetary scale.
The machine is playing the green word game millions of times a second.
Yes.
But, I do want to push back on Nemotin's premise a little bit here.
Okay, go for it.
It is very easy to look backward through the lens of the present and find patterns that fit a neat narrative.
Sure.
Isn't it a stretch, or perhaps a bit unfair to the actual history of computer science, to imply that a 20th century linguist secretly invented artificial intelligence?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Nemotin's actually very careful not to make that claim.
Oh, okay.
The essay explicitly states that Kopylenko did not invent LLMs.
Right, because that would be a huge leap.
Yeah, trying to turn a brilliant structural linguist into a mascot for Silicon Valley would actually diminish his specific legacy.
It would keep it, yeah.
Nemotin frames this more as an act of recognition. He is firmly placing Kopylenko in the prehistory of AI, not its history.
Prehistory. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Kopylenko was mapping the vast, complex territory of combinability before the physical machinery existed to process it at scale.
He was touching a fundamental structure.
Exactly. He touched an underlying structure of language. And when the technology finally caught up, when we finally built the server farms and neural networks capable of processing human language,
Yeah.
those systems essentially had to pass through the exact structural understanding Kopylenko had already charted.
That distinction makes a lot of sense. He drafted a theoretical blueprint for the landscape.
He did.
But, recognizing that humans and machines are studying the exact same linguistic map brings up a really necessary question.
Which is?
What is the actual difference between Kopylenko's project and an AI's project? Because an LLM can calculate the math of combinability at a speed and scale Kopylenko could never achieve manually. If the math is the same, does the distinction actually matter?
Nemotin argues that the distinction is everything.
Really? Everything?
Yes. The essay draws a hard line between the modern AI concept of prediction and Kopylenko's humanistic concept of combinability.
Okay.
We are constantly told that large language models simply predict the next token in a sequence.
Right. That's the standard definition.
And from an engineering standpoint, that is completely accurate. But Nemotin suggests that if we accept prediction as the only framework, we really impoverish our understanding of language.
Because prediction sounds entirely mechanical.
Exactly. It sounds like a trivial parlor trick of autocomplete.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, we use AI to write emails, and it works. But the algorithm doesn't know what a green apple actually tastes like.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have a childhood memory of the tartness of an apple at a kitchen table. It just knows mathematically that the token apple statistically follows the token green with a high degree of probability.
Right. It is entirely surface-level math.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why should we care about this distinction?
This raises an important question because it points to the human edge in language.
The human edge.
Yeah. Kopylenko's lens of combinability shows us that words do not just combine mathematically. They participate in deep historical cultures of combinations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Look closely at those examples from the game. Green beret isn't just a statistical pairing of a color and a hat.
No, it has a lot of meaning.
It carries the heavy cultural weight of military history, specific geography, human sacrifice.
Right. And green apple carries sensory, memory, and taste.
The AI possesses the statistical proximity of the tokens, but humanity holds the why.
I love that. Humanity holds the why.
The statistical surface the AI maps is very real and effective, but underneath that surface are human idioms, shared histories, and actual forms of life.
Human linguistics asks why certain combinations feel entirely natural.
Exactly. While others, require intense poetic pressure to force together.
Right, green fear.
Right. That tension between the mechanical prediction of the next token and the lived cultural reality of the word, that is the exact edge where the world of the machine and the world of the human collide.
And the emotional temperature of a sentence shifts entirely based on these tiny, historically weighted combinations.
Absolutely.
What makes this story even more striking is the historical environment where this profoundly humanistic understanding of language was actually nurtured.
Right. The setting is crucial.
Kopylenko wasn't theorizing in a comfortable, well-funded lab in modern California.
Not even close.
He was navigating the Soviet Union in the 20th century.
Kopylenko survived an incredibly harsh century. The essay touches on the severe realities of his life.
War, physical displacement,
injuries, and the really heavy, often restrictive geography of Soviet academic life.
The bureaucracy and political pressures of that era had to be immense.
They were. Yet, despite operating under all that historical weight, he managed to build this rigorous world of exact thought.
And the daughter shared a detail with Nemotin that really stands out against that harsh historical backdrop.
What was that?
She remembered how much pure joy her father took in this work.
Oh, yeah.
Which is amazing, right? We so often picture serious science, especially in that era, as this grim monument of difficulty.
Right, we imagine researchers with furrowed brows and joyless, gray environments.
Exactly. But Kopylenko approached the massive, intimidating complexity of language with an almost childlike delight.
He refused to treat language as a dead object to be pinned under glass and dissected.
Right. He viewed it as a playground of connections.
And that joyful exploration wasn't an isolated phenomenon either.
It wasn't.
No, Nemotin brings up another prominent name, Igor Melchuk, and references the meaning text tradition.
Okay.
Kopylenko was actually part of a larger, vibrant cluster of Soviet mathematical linguists.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were treating language with a level of technical seriousness and structural rigor that looks astonishingly modern to software engineers today.
Wow.
They were having seminars, debating theories, and they were just driven by pure intellectual curiosity.
It really highlights how scientific prehistories are actually formed.
Yeah, they don't appear out of nowhere.
No, they are built by communities of minds working through problems over decades.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, there's a real tragedy to technological progress.
What do you mean?
When a shiny new machine finally arrives on the world stage, the public is entirely mesmerized by the output.
Right, we just stare at the blinking cursor generating text.
And we completely forget the long, invisible foundation of human thought that made the architecture of that machine possible in the first place.
The spotlight hits the server farm, and the human foundation just fades right into the background.
Exactly.
And Nemotin's essay does a remarkable job of pushing back against that amnesia.
It really does. It builds this beautiful bridge from a father's pure scientific joy to a daughter's warm memory on a sidewalk in New York.
And it connects the rigorous mathematical linguistics of the Soviet era directly to the immense humming machinery of the language models we rely on today.
Ultimately, it proves that language isn't made of isolated stones.
No.
It is built entirely from living relations.
It really serves as a potent reminder that behind every algorithm dictating our digital lives, there is a deep, often overlooked history of human inquiry.
Absolutely.
So next time you are sitting at your laptop, watching an AI-generated paragraph word by word across your screen, you can look at it with a totally different lens.
You aren't just watching a machine execute cold mathematics.
Right. You are watching Kopylenko's green word game being played out at lightning speed, drawing on the entire map of human connections.
But understanding that the machine is mapping our human past leaves us with a rather profound question about the future.
Oh, like what?
Well, today's AI models are trained on the historical and cultural combinations of the human past, right?
Right. They learn from the books, the articles, and the lived experiences that humans wrote down.
But what happens as we move forward? What happens when AI-generated text becomes the dominant source material for the next generation of language models?
Oh, wow. If the machine is primarily learning from the output of other machines, the map of the party changes entirely.
Exactly. Will those strange, poetic violations of expectation, the green fears of our language that require a human mind to intentionally break the statistical rules, will they be lost?
That's a terrifying thought.
Will the rich, historical culture of combinability be slowly flattened into a closed loop of purely statistical averages?
We managed to find the blueprint of our modern machines in the archives of our human past.
Right.
But as the machines increasingly take over the drafting table, we have to seriously consider who or what is drawing the blueprints for the future of our language.
It's something we really need to think about.
That is a question that completely reframes how we interact with the text on our screens. Keep looking for those blueprints, keep playing the word game, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.